was once a safe town where nothing exciting ever happens. Until one day, it was almost as if Hawkins became cursed. Why? Maybe we'll never know for sure, but how about we learn a thing or two here on the Hawkins Files? Hey everyone, welcome back to another video here on the Hawkins Files, and today we are going to be doing part 2 of our recap of Season 2 for the show in question, Stranger Things. Now, last episode, it was planned to be the whole season. It took a little bit longer than expected, so I kind of have this set up a little bit differently than last time. I have some bullet points here of kind of the more important moments, so it's not going to be so much recap anymore. It's going to be more the most important moments from each of those episodes, which I think we can still learn helpful information. To start off, at the end of episode 5, we see that Will is in this state of where he has no control, and like the burning of these vines in the tunnels is completely destroying his body. And so he's quickly rushed to the lab. In doing so, it's figured out that Will has actually suffered memory loss from being taken over by the Mind Flayer, is what they call it. Then, another key moment in this episode, we have some romance between Nancy and Jonathan, because Murray Bauman, who we talked about in the last video, is basically the reason why. He basically makes their feelings for each other very clear by saying that Nancy clearly doesn't love Steve, but she loves Jonathan. So it's very quickly realized in this episode. Throughout this episode, we see Dustin, Steve, Lucas, and Max all head to this junkyard. And they're basically trying to lure all the Demogorgon dogs, or Demodogs, they like to call them, into this junkyard to basically try to take them out, but things don't go according to plan. And then the map that Will made in previous episodes, from the drawings, the people from the lab end up taking pictures of all those, and they bring the pictures to the lab, and then Will basically shows this like little hub area of where the Mind Flayer supposedly doesn't want him to see, but it turns out to just be a trap. And in doing so, all the soldiers end up dying, and then the Demodogs rise above the tunnels and end up in the lab, and ends up being a scary sight. Now, we kind of take a pause in this part, and then we kind of go back to Eleven's point of view for the next episode, where she ends up going to Chicago to find her sister Collie, that we haven't seen since episode 1 of the season, and we revisit the idea that she has the telekinetic ability, or not telekinetic abilities, but she has the abilities to make your mind see things that aren't actually there. So unlike 11, with the telekinetic, she can basically make your mind see things that aren't actually there. And then it's revealed that the people that the group that Collie's with, they're killing the lab personnel that basically hurt them as children, or at least Collie and 11. Those are the ones that they're mainly targeting, and then the ones that hurt the other group members is also part of this as well. Revealed that Collie knows that the powers that both her and 11 have can be fueled by anger, and that makes them more powerful and control them more. So Collie shows 11 how to do that, and she really knows how to control her powers at that point. Collie, she tries to convince Elle to kill this member, hurt both Terry Ives, 11's mother, and hurt Collie. So they end up getting in disguises. They go to the house to kill him, but it's revealed that he has children, so 11 kind of is hesitant on that, so she lets him survive. They end up heading back to the little like hideaway that the group is staying at, and Collie makes 11 see Dr. Brenner once again, who supposedly died at the end of season 1, but it's revealed that he is still alive. He's just nowhere as of right now. We don't know where he is. 11 has a little bit of alone time, and she sees a vision of both Hopper and Mike back at the lab. They're clearly in danger, so she decides she's going to head back to Hawkins, and she's going to help them while she still can. We head back to the Hawkins group. The power has gone out from the Demodogs, completely taking over the lab, and basically they're all stuck. And then we see the group of Nancy and Jonathan, as well as Steve, Dustin, Max, and Lucas. They all get grouped together, and then they try to figure out how to get into the lab because the power is off, so they can't open the gate. Shown at this point that Will's clearly a spy, so they just sedate him, and he's basically... They just keep him asleep, unconscious, until they eventually get back out of the lab and into a safe space. Now, they do find out how to turn the breakers back on, and then turn the power back on to escape, but in doing so, the Demodogs end up getting to Bob and eating him alive, so unfortunately Bob does not make it out of this season alive. Even though Will is said to be a spy for the Mind Flayer, it's shown that he is still in there, and he's telling the group through Morse code that they have to close the gate. And that's the only way to stop the Mind Flayer, is to completely close the gate so it completely loosens the connection from the Mind Flayer and the upside down from the real world. They get this information, the Demodogs, they end up finding the whole group that they're hiding at the buyer's house. And that there's some random noises outside, and then a Demodog actually goes flying through the window, and it's revealed that 11 is the one that threw it through the window, and 11 is end up reunited with the entire group, and Mike and Elle have this little reunion moment of they can't lose each other again. That's just not in question. For the finale, we noticed that Elle's going to have to be the one to close the gate. She's the one that opened it. She's the only one that can close it. But in doing so, the group also realizes that there's a possibility that by closing the gate, it could kill Will, since the Mind Flayer is actually part of Will. So they realize they're going to have to get it out of him in order for him to survive. They decide to take Will to Hopper's cabin with Joyce, Nancy, and Jonathan. And basically, they realize that the Mind Flayer, he doesn't like heat. So they're just going to heat him up. And they're just going to hope that gets the Mind Flayer out of Will's body. It scares Mike that Hopper and 11 are going to the lab alone to close the gate, because the Demodogs are completely swarming the lab. So it's like they don't really have an open shot. So Mike ends up coming up with this plan to burn the tunnels. And like where that hub is, they decide to just completely set it on fire, which Steve doesn't exactly go along with. But then Billy shows up to try to take Max. They end up having this fight, and it kind of just everything goes bad, and Steve ends up getting knocked out by Billy, but Max ends up using the same thing they used to sedate Will on Billy, and so that completely knocks him out. So they take his keys and they go to the tunnels. Now, in doing this, the Demodogs decide to show up and try to stop them from burning it, but at the same time, Elle is closing the gate. So even once they burn the tunnels and they try to escape, the Demodogs just run past them, because they're more worried about the gate. They're not worried about this group that's trying to burn the tunnels. Like, they're more likely to survive if they stop the gate from closing. But we know that's not going to happen. So 11 successfully closes the gate, but in doing so, it completely drains their power. And at the end, Hopper does show that he is proud of 11, because she just did this thing that's just saved the world, everyone's lives. And with the gate closed, and Hawkins' lab is completely destroyed, because everything is coming from there. So it ends up shutting down the lab. And then we go down to a month later, and the snowball that has been talked about since season 1 finally comes around, and Lucas, Max have their moment. Mike and 11 have their moment. It's just a great sight. So that ends it off for season 2. It's quite a gut-wrenching season, but it's also got its moments of being the most heartfelt thing. But given that ending, that's where we're going to end today's video. And starting next video, we're going to be doing season 3. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time. And remember, this has been the Hawkins Files.